Sid, you have 10 minutes. If you're not here by then, I'm throwing her out the window. George Segal was once Hollywood's golden boy, earning million-dollar paychecks and Oscar nominations. But in 1978, he made a decision that destroyed everything. He was supposed to star in the hit movie 10, but simply didn't show up on the first day of filming. That no-show cost him $270,000 in lawsuits and ended his leading man career forever. What nobody knew was the dark spiral behind that moment. Years of addiction, failed marriages, and self-destruction had taken over. Now his widow reveals what he finally admitted in his last days. George Segal Jr. was born on February 13, 1934, in New York City. He was the youngest of 4 children. His grandparents were Russian Jewish immigrants. Many people thought his father was a butcher, but that wasn't true. George Segal, Sr. worked as a malt and hop agent, supplying ingredients for beer. When George was just 13, everything changed. In 1947, his father died suddenly. That loss forced George and his mother Fanny to leave Great Neck and move back to New York City. Growing up in Great Neck hadn't been easy. He faced anti-Semitic bullying. Once kids from a nearby parochial school kicked him down a flight of stairs. Another time, people slashed car tires outside his temple. Long before he was born, his sister Greta had died from pneumonia. That quiet grief in the family made George feel the fragility of life from the start. His family had a history of political passion, too. His great-grandfather once ran for governor of Massachusetts as a socialist. After his father passed away, George became drawn to music. It started when he saw a friend playing a Red Herald teen ukulele. He said that little red ukulele won his heart. But by high school, he knew you couldn't play in a real band with a ukulele. So he moved on to the banjo. He studied at George School, a peaceful Quaker boarding school in Pennsylvania. That's where he first met Sonia Schultz. She would later become his third wife, though they didn't marry until 1998, exactly 51 years later. The school gave him a sense of calm and built his confidence. George had already fallen in love with acting when he was 9. He watched Alan Ladd in This Gun for Hire and felt something spark. He didn't care that the trench coat and revolver were fake. He liked the adventure. He graduated from George School in 1951. He went to Haverford College, but didn't stay long because the Army came calling. At Columbia University, George was a young man full of charm. He led a 7-man jazz band that kept changing names. For bookings, they first called themselves Bruno Lynch and his Imperial Jazz Band. Later, they became the Red Onion Jazz Band. This wasn't a joke band. They were serious enough to play at George's own wedding in 1956. He earned his bachelor's degree in performing arts and drama in 1955 while also performing regularly around New York City. His banjo helped pay the bills when acting gigs were hard to find. That band gave him stage presence and confidence. Columbia also opened his eyes to many different cultures and social classes beyond the world he knew in Great Neck. Then came the Army. George was drafted during the Korean War, but never saw combat. He stayed in Staten Island and formed an Army band called Corporal Bruno's Sad Sack 6. The Army let him commute to Columbia and finish his degree, which was rare. Instead of holding a gun, he held a banjo, lifting spirits through music. He served for about a year and was discharged. That experience taught him discipline and teamwork. He would later joke about the Corporal Bruno name, using it as a recurring character in interviews and stories. After the Army, George entered the actor's studio. He trained under Lee Strasberg and Utah Hagen, both famous for teaching method acting. George once said it was like being in the Marines. They stripped you down and rebuilt you as an actor. His first big role came in 1956 as an understudy in The Iceman Cometh. The same year he married Marion Siegel Fried, who later became a film editor. That revival of Eugene O'Neill's play starred Jason Roberts and ran for 565 performances. George was paid only $20 a week, just like the rest of the cast. But for him, the chance to work with future stars like Peter Falk and William Daniels was worth it. He earned less than $1,000 total for the whole run, but it gave him a serious start. He also joined The Premise, an improvisational comedy group in Greenwich Village. Founded in 1960, there he worked with Buck Henry. Their styles clashed in a good way. George brought energy and wildness. Buck stood still and delivered dry, smart lines. Their sketches tackled real news and politics. They didn't make much money, mostly just tips, but it launched their careers. George sharpened his comic timing, while Buck became a major writer for The Steve Allen Show. In 1961, George got his Broadway break in Gideon, a biblical drama by Patty Chesky. He played Pura and starred opposite Frederick March, who played God. The play opened on November 9th and ran for 236 performances until June 1962. It made over $1.2 million, a huge number for a serious stage drama. The cast had 25 actors and costumes alone cost $50,000. The play got 4 Tony nominations. For George, sharing the stage with March, a 2-time Oscar winner, gave him priceless experience. It also opened doors to Hollywood. That same year, Columbia Pictures signed him to a 5-year contract worth $75,000. His first film was The Young Doctors in 1961, where he acted alongside Frederick March. Again, George's performance was strong enough to earn him the Golden Globe for New Star of the Year in 1962. That was just the beginning. His next film, The New Interns, in 1964, won him another Golden Globe as Most Promising Newcomer. Hollywood was quick to notice his potential. At a time when studios were looking for fresh faces, George seemed like the perfect fit. While building his film career, George also made important television appearances. In 1963, he starred in the Alfred Hitchcock Hour in an episode called A Nice Touch, where he played a manipulative actor who convinced his lover to murder her husband. The plot was shocking, especially for TV. He also showed up in Naked City, filmed right in New York. These roles paid between $2,500 and $5,000 each, which helped him stay afloat. More importantly, they showed his range. Casting directors started to see him as someone who could play both romantic leads and morally dark characters. That then came his major breakthrough. In 1965, he starred in Ship of Fools, directed by Stanley Kramer. The film cost $4 million and was nominated for 8 Academy Awards. George played David, a disturbing artist who mentally torments another passenger. It was Vivien Leigh's last film. George's charm and cruelty mixed together in a way that shocked audiences. The film ran 150 minutes, very long for that time, and delivered a haunting warning about the rise of fascism that same year. George starred in King Rat. He played Corporal King, a man who thrived in a Japanese prisoner camp by selling rats as meat and making fake Rolex watches. The movie was based on a novel by James Clell, who had survived the real Changi prison camp. George's uniform always looked clean while others starved. That image stuck in people's minds. It showed how war could twist people's minds. In 1966, he played Nick in Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, directed by Mike Nichols. The movie starred Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton. All 4 cast members got Oscar nominations, something only one other film in history had done before. George was nominated for Best Supporting Actor. The film cost $7.5 million and broke Hollywood's moral rules with its language and sexual content. His character Nick was a young professor who got caught in a cruel night of mind games. He both hurt and got hurt. It became one of the most powerful roles of his career. That same year, he starred in The Quiller Memorandum, playing an American spy trying to stop a neo-Nazi group in West Berlin. He had no backup, no gun, and no contact with his handlers. He was drugged, kidnapped, and tortured. The movie, filmed right in Berlin, cost $3 million and captured the cold, suspicious feeling of the Cold War. It premiered in London on November 10th and marked George's rise as an international star. In 1967, he played gangster Peter Jennenberg in the St. Valentine's Day Massacre. The movie told the true story of the 1929 killings in a Chicago garage. George's character was one of the 7 victims. His death scene was haunting. The film had 22 vintage cars and recreated a failed hit on Al Capone. It came out just before Bonnie and Clyde and The Dirty Dozen, starting a wave of violent crime films. In 1970, George Segal shocked Hollywood when he played a desperate lawyer named Gordon in the wild comedy Where's Papa? Directed by Carl Renner, the movie was full of dark jokes about a man trying to get rid of his senile mother, played by Ruth Gordon. One disturbing scene showed Segal's character climbing into bed with his mother and whispering, "Here's Papa." A moment so unsettling it was cut from most theaters. Even though there was no nudity, the censors almost gave the film an X rating, and theater owners were outraged it got an R, despite a budget of just $1 million. The film made $4.5 million in the US and became known as the first American movie to use the word on screen. It proved Segal wasn't afraid to take risks. That same year, he starred with Barbra Streisand in The Owl and the Pussycat, and their chemistry lit up the screen. Segal played a shy writer, while Streisand was a wild call girl. Their back and forth was electric, and audiences loved it. The film made $23.7 million in the US and was the 10th highest grossing movie that year. Segal was praised by the National Society of Film Critics and came in second for Best Actor. There was also off-screen drama when nude scenes Streisand filmed were cut from the movie, but later leaked in magazines leading to lawsuits. Still, the movie cemented Segal as a top leading man. In 1973, Segal reached new heights with A Touch of Class, playing an American businessman, having an affair with a British woman played by Glenda Jackson. He won a Golden Globe for Best Actor in a Comedy, and Jackson won both the Golden Globe and the Oscar. The movie made $148.9 million. Adjusted for inflation, Cary Grant was first offered the role but refused to come out of retirement, and Roger Moore dropped out to do his first James Bond film, so Segal stepped in and made it a hit. Director Melvin Frank had seen something special in Segal's humor and paired him perfectly with Jackson. The next year, in 1974, Segal showed his dramatic side in California Split, a gambling drama directed by Robert Altman. He played a writer who gets hooked on gambling and wins a huge amount in Reno, only to feel empty afterward. The movie made $5 million and used new 8-track stereo sound to make the casino scenes feel real. Segal's acting was praised for being raw and natural, and the film later inspired many other gambling movies like Rounders. Also in 1974, he starred in The Terminal Man, playing a scientist with violent seizures who agrees to have electrodes put in his brain. The movie predicted future medical tech and explored how machines could control people. Segal's character became addicted to the brain stimulation, leading to more blackouts and violence. The film didn't do well, only making $15.20, $2 million adjusted for inflation, and some critics found it too cold. But Segal's performance was haunting and ahead of its time, especially the final scene where his character dies in a grave as helicopters circle above. In 1976, Segal's career took a hit with The Duchess and the Dirtwater Fox, a comedy western with Goldie Hawn that flopped badly. After big wins like A Touch of Class, this failure shocked everyone. Critics said it was a warning sign that Segal's star power was fading. Then came the biggest blow. In 1979, Segal was supposed to star in 10 by Blake Edwards, with filming scheduled for October 2nd. But he just didn't show up. Dudley Moore was rushed in to replace him, and the script was rewritten. Edwards was furious and sued Segal, winning $270,000 each. The film made $748 million and made Moore a star. Segal's no-show not only cost him money but also his place in Hollywood. It marked the end of his run as a top leading man. During the late 70s and early 80s, Segal admitted he was using drugs and struggling personally. His first marriage had ended in 1983 after 25 years. His wife, Marion, a successful film editor, filed for divorce. They had 2 daughters, Elizabeth and Polly. Polly, who was born in 1966, stayed with her mom in Beverly Hills. Marion had edited several of Segal's movies. Their divorce was painful, and Segal's personal pain spilled into his work. In 1980, Segal tried to bounce back with The Last Married Couple in America, opposite Natalie Wood, but it bombed. It made just $12.8 million and opened in only 488 theaters. The film was supposed to be a commentary on changing relationships, but didn't connect with audiences. It became Natalie Wood's last completed movie before her tragic death in 1981. In 1981, Segal starred in Carbon Copy, playing a racist executive who finds out he has a black teenage son, played by Denzel Washington in his first film. The story was meant to be funny, but ended up being awkward and offensive. The opening scene had Segal's character trying to rape his wife as a joke. Critics found it uncomfortable, and instead of reviving his career, the movie made things worse. In 1987, Segal starred in the CBS sitcom Take 5 as a divorced father trying to restart his life. The story felt close to home since Segal had just gone through a divorce himself, but the show didn't last and was canceled quickly. That same year, Segal starred in Murphy's Law, a drama about an insurance investigator battling alcoholism and heartbreak. Though the show had some fans and a 6.9 rating on IMDb, it was canceled after just 13 episodes. In 19, Segal returned to Broadway in Requiem for a heavyweight, replacing Richard Dreyfuss. The play had done well in Connecticut, but on Broadway, it failed miserably. After only 3 performances and 8 previews, it closed. A bad review from the New York Times and poor promotion killed it. Then, in 1989, Segal got a surprise hit with Look Who's Talking, playing Albert, a selfish businessman who fathers a child during an affair. The movie made $297 million worldwide on just a $7.5 million budget. Though Segal played the bad guy, it gave him a visibility boost. The film's massive success led to 2 sequels and proved Segal could still grab attention in the right role. In real life, Segal faced heartbreaking loss in 1996 when his second wife, Linda Ray, died at just 50. She had met Segal at Carnegie Hall in 1981 when he performed with his jazz band. Linda had managed the Pointer Sisters and worked with Bill Graham. Her death came from a hospital error. She was allergic to penicillin, but doctors gave it to her anyway. The wrong treatments destroyed her health over 4 painful years. Segal was devastated and said they pumped her full of the stuff that killed her. That concert at Carnegie Hall where they met was a turning point. Segal was playing Yes Sir, That's My Baby, and sang straight to Linda. Later he said he fell in love right then, just like a movie. They married in 1983 and stayed together until her death. Music was always part of Segal's life. In 1967, he released the Yama Yama Man. In 1974, he recorded A Touch of Ragtime with the Imperial Jazz Band playing Scott Joe Plain songs. In 1987, he recorded Basin Street with the Canadian Brass. He wasn't just dabbling. Segal was a serious banjo player, performing at the Los Angeles Classic Jazz Festival even in 1996. He even brought music into his acting in The Zany Adventures of Robin Hood, which aired in 1984. He played the hero with comic flair, mixing in his banjo skills. The movie was filmed at Real English Castles and has since gained cult status for blending medieval comedy with jazz touches. During the 80s, as his acting roles became more obscure, Segal used music to stay creative. He appeared on The Tonight Show many times, where his banjo playing was a hit with audiences. Even when the movies stopped coming, the banjo gave him a stage. Then, in 1997, Segal made a huge comeback in Just Shoot Me on NBC, playing Jack Gallo, a wealthy magazine publisher. The writers added in his real-life musical talents, and in the 2001 episode, Fanny Finch, Segal played the banjo on screen. The show ran for 7 seasons and brought him back to television stardom. Another episode in 2002 even referenced his musical past. This time, the blend of his true self and his character worked perfectly. George Segal married Marion Segal Freed in 1956. Their wedding took place on a theater stage in New York during a quiet Monday night when no shows were scheduled. It felt like something out of a movie. But just after that, George got drafted into the Army. Over the next 27 years, they built a life together and had 2 daughters. Elizabeth was born in 1962 and Polly came along in 1966. Marion wasn't just his wife. She also worked closely with him in Hollywood. She helped produce and edit 3 of his films, including Bloom in Love in 1973. But in the late 1970s, everything started to fall apart. George's career began to struggle. At the same time, he started to spiral. Marion tried to hold everything together, but by 1982, she filed for divorce in Los Angeles. She asked for alimony, child support, and a fair split of everything they owned. At that time, Polly was 16 and living with Marion in Beverly Hills. Their divorce was finalized in 1983, marking the end of a 27-year marriage. That same year, George called it the most self-destructive time of his life. He later admitted that he had lost control. Drugs were part of it, and so was fame. He once said, "There were drugs. I think I got full of myself." Back in the early 1970s, George was a major star. A touch of class had made him $1 million per film actor. But by 1980, when he starred in The Last Married Couple in America, his co-star Natalie Wood warned him. She told him he was being typecast and would soon forget why he even started acting. That warning stayed with him. Around that same time, George made a decision that changed his career forever. He was supposed to star in Blake Edwards' film Tip, but on the first day of filming in October 1978, he just didn't show up. The entire production had to be shut down. Edwards replaced him with Dudley Moore, rewrote the script, and turned the movie into one of 1979's biggest hits, making over $74 million. Edwards sued George and won $270,000. But the real damage was to George's reputation. Executives started seeing him as unreliable. Some even said Edwards made sure George wouldn't get work again, and he didn't.